Namaste everyone. Very warm welcome to Satsang today. Muji ji ki jai. If it's your first time here, you can ask your questions in the chat window. Namaste, namaste. Welcome once again. Today we can look at whose life are we so concerned about? Whose life and whose state are we so concerned about? Have we become so used to worrying about this imaginary person that even after the realization is here that it does not exist, we still want that person to be in some state? Or we start worrying if some states appear which seem uncomfortable for this person. Who is experiencing anything at all? Are we willing to look at this question? Is the one who is experiencing, is that a individual entity? And if we are so clear that it cannot be an individual entity that is experiencing anything, then why are we concerned with the content of the experience? Very good, let's read a little. Shanti says, so appropriate today. I have been giving myself a hard time, but seeing that I am focusing on the person who has it or not. And Rashmi says, same here, Shanti. Atma says, very good question, Father, who is experiencing all this? We must look at this. Otherwise, we are only using spiritual understanding as a band-aid. We are only using spiritual concepts as candy. We are only using these concepts as vitamins. That when we feel upset or we feel bad about something, then we just pop in a spiritual concept. That's not what this is. There is a stage where this happens, where we use spiritual concepts to feel better, and that's absolutely fine. But if it is only restricted to that, then you're again falling into the trap of the mind, which is saying you must now use spirituality to make the state of the person better. Okay, so Claire says, I am seeing that I still believe in people and me as a person. All our concepts will now come out of the woodworks and they will be clear for us. This is the way in which grace functions. So even if it seems like I do not want to confront some of these things now, but they have been given a home through our belief, they will start now coming up, and in this way they can now be released. So some of it I am exposing in satsang, and the rest of it definitely life is exposing for you on its own. Therefore, those that run from satsang must be because there is some fear of what will ultimately get exposed. Under the garb of boredom or disagreement or doubt, there is usually some fear. About what is going to get exposed next. And when we are in a fearful state, then we are very quick to pick up a thought which will get us out of these situations. But grace does not function like that. You cannot escape life in this way. Life will always point you towards your own reality. Shanti says the person's own struggle is not the point. Yes, I see this, it is almost funny. Because we have been so used to storification that the understanding or the awakening or enlightenment or freedom, the mind tries to make that part of the story as well. When looked at clearly, yes, it will seem very funny actually. Claire says a pull of some sort or a habit. Yes. Atma says there is nobody here, just thoughts and emotions and memory and images. And the awareness in whose presence all of this is appearing is untouched by this content. This is the point which we make so often, that what you are is untouched by any of this content. Jyoti says it seems like there is something that cares a little, but if and when I check, there is no individual exactly. In these times, I just continue to not identify with anything. That is why the inquiry is so beautiful, that instantly in the looking it is seen that there is no person here at all. There only seems to be this pure seeing, and within that this pure being. Instantly we see this. This does not take time at all. And it is good to keep checking once in a while. Claire says, I get attached to certain people like a sort of commitment to uphold to them or to support them. All the roles can happen, but it can happen without this needy sense of attachment. No attachment to something which is not eternal, or rather all attachments to that which is not eternal will eventually lead to suffering. There is a big difference between love and need. In fact, when there is love, there cannot be need. But so often we confuse this. In fact, the mind's version of love is need. Atma says, if I start to believe in it, only then trouble begins. Yes. Otherwise, there is only peace here. Yes. It's very true. Ajnani says, I don't want these concepts, all of them to the satsang fire. Very good. In daily life, if some come, I say 1, 2, 3 drop and dropped. And then 3 deep breath. Very good. In whatever way we can drop, it's good to drop. No concepts are required. Concepts are only required once some other concepts have been believed. If no concepts have been believed, then no words need to be spoken in satsang also. Claire says, you've really helped me to see my true position, especially with arising energy. These energies were so easily identified with in the past. Now it is getting easier to stay as our true position, not delude ourselves to be involved in any energy. Namaste Louise, Namaste Lizelle. When Claire says there is a subtle identity that feels bad for not upholding other people. Don't get into the trap of any identity. All will play out from your state of neutrality. Don't try to uphold or not uphold. Because in trying to uphold or not uphold, you invent the upholder. All can happen without this imagination. Namaste Jayani. Rashmi says, when doubts and confusion arise, all I know is I am. That is all I know. The presence is all that feels true. No other belief gives me the comfort in moments of doubt. And this can be true at one level. On the path, when so much mind activation can happen in resistance to the truth, then the sense I am seems like a oasis or a sanctuary where we can rest peacefully without any concern, because it is the one constant in the waking state. But for you, I can say that you must go beyond this also. Because if you are using this even as a crutch, then you're believing yourself to be something that you are not. You say, when doubts and confusion arise, the only thing I know, this I, is who? Are we picking up the person again? Saying that the only thing the person can rely on is the sense I am. Do you rely on the I am, or does the I amness itself rely on you? And all it needs is a simple looking. If we give it to the mind, it will get confused. Do you rely on the I am, or does the I am rely on you? Claire says, all these attachments and beliefs into the fire. Very good. Louise says, Anantaji, something occurred to me today. Grace came and I noticed in this silent space, the mind was still thinking about how to get it. Enlightenment, space, freedom, when it was here already, was ironic. Our thoughts will always say that we still need to get something. So in any state, our thoughts will always say, you are almost there, or you are very far from the truth. It will never say that truth is already here. If truth is true, then it must already be here. But a thought cannot say this. So thinking will always be like this. I am not surprised at all that it is, thinking is always like this. But yes, it does happen sometimes where attention goes strongly to these kind of thoughts. And that is also okay, as long as you're not indulging them with your belief. Claire says, thank you. Louise says, and seen. Rashmi says, how to get ads out of the way. Yes, so we've said this before, that we need to install the ad blocker, and somebody in the Sangha can send it to you. You can install the ad blocker so it doesn't bother you. But we often find that when somebody has a really burning question, that's when the ads start coming up. So you let me know if you didn't hear the answer, and we can look at the question again. Ajnani says, yesterday a man was talking about some spiritual concepts. I stayed in silence. He talked about lessons and needing more lifetimes. I stayed in silence. No need to defend anything. It is very good. It is very good. No need to argue. No need to convey our understanding to someone unless you sense that there is a sense of openness there. And also no need to judge anyone else, because in the past we ourselves have believed so many concepts. Therefore they are making the same mistake, if at all it can be called a mistake, then they are making the same mistakes as we have made in the past. Therefore, no judgment to even those who are believing some other concepts. Amaya says, Namaste, watching body symptoms, almost panic attack due to inflammation, fear of doctors, drugs, surrendering this. Aware I'm not this even while feeling it all, even fear of dying into the satsang fire. It's very good. I'm holding your hand through all of this. Let life take us where it wants to take us. Let life show us everything it has to show us. We will walk together with no fear of any of this. Let all that has to come, come. It cannot touch to your reality. It cannot touch the truth. Aradhana says, Rashmi, please download AdBlock. Yeah. Rashmi says, thanks Aradhana. The ads always come when my question is being answered. Yes. I've seen that. Amaya, thank you. Rashmi says, so true. So did you hear the answer which was for you then, or do you want to recap? Rajani says, yes, I noticed he was my old aspect, yes, and no judgment. Very good, excellent. Rashmi says, I have felt the panic attack too, and just don't listen to the mind. The feelings come and go. So when you say I have felt, are you just saying conversationally, or you really believe that you have felt it? And if you have felt it, then you as what? So you say no. Okay, so let's look at the question again. You said that the sense of I am seems to be the only thing I can rely on when there is too much doubt and confusion. And I said that that is completely understandable at some stage of the understanding. But where we have walked now, we have seen that even this sense of I am relies on you. You do not rely on the sense of I am. Only a phenomenal or a personal idea can rely on the sense of I amness also. But now you will quickly see that the sense of I am and beingness arises for you. It cannot exist without you, but you can exist without it. Yes, it is our constant companion in the waking state. It can be said that the sense I am is the only true friend we have in the waking state. But it will be seen that even the being arises from the seeing itself. But the seeing does not arise from being. You say conversationally, that's good. So if you're saying it conversationally, then it's fine. Then you will say that the arising of all these energies was seen and they were allowed to come and go. But the instant you say that I as a person was experiencing this, that is when you start smelling a rat. We are not to be concerned with any state which is appearing. We are beyond all these states. These states appear for us. We are not in service to them. Even the beautiful states of love, peace and joy, we are not to chase them. They in fact chase you all the time. If you just stay still and refuse to chase anything at all, you will find an abundance of love, an abundance of peace and joy. So much love here, so much peace and joy. Just the idea of having to chase it will sound funny to you. It will sound like a joke. Rashmi says, sometimes it's just beautiful how the feelings arise and go. Like something got missed, like something beautiful. So don't let any state convince you that you are a person again. A great state or a horrible state, both can convince you of your individuality. You just be the witness of all of these. Jyoti says, can we ignore absolutely everything? I just want to confirm this with you again. Yes. All thoughts, whatever their nature might be, can be completely ignored. And all actions are happening on their own anyway. So when we are speaking of ignoring, we are only speaking of our thoughts and other energy patterns which appear quote unquote internally. We are not the thinker of thoughts or the doer of actions. Let God take care of everything. He can do it very well. Shanti says, one thing I see is that I am judging that I should always be grateful. When there is selfishness and wanting more, that is peace, grace, etc., there is discouragement and belief that I have been deluded here. The old trickster, the old trickery about doubt, confusion, all of this will come. And we can see it come, but don't say that I am doubting. And don't say that I am fearing. All of this is just appearing and will disappear. There is no need for you to get attached to it. It is like a subway station. A train will come. It is your choice whether you jump in or not. You can just stand by, look at the rush, and the train will go. But if you keep jumping onto every train, then you will be quite tired very fast. And eventually you have not gone anywhere. So you can stay as you are and not jump onto trains, or you can jump onto every train, get tired and come back to where you were. Because the truth is always here only. Not here as in this satsang or listening to me. Here is in this very moment, this very now. Very good. Shanti says, I am exposing now, not believing. Very good. Thank you. No power is given to these things. Very good. Yes. Vibeke, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name properly, but Vibeke says, can we ignore any emotions too? Ignoring does not mean resisting. First, we must clarify this. Because when we say ignore, then some get the impression that this means to block or to resist. So ignoring does not mean to resist. In fact, it means to be completely open. Just be completely open, don't resist anything at all. Just let it come and let it go. Don't have to engage with any of this. And don't have to try to force something to go away also. It will go on its own. So you do not have to play the toll keeper, keeping toll of everything that is passing. You leave the road open and all will just come and go. But if you start giving your belief and your personal identification to all that is coming, so if anger is coming and you say, I am angry now, or if guilt is coming, you say, I am guilty now, then it is giving yourself attributes which are just not possible, because this is all imagined. You imagine the person who is angry or guilty. So better to say, who is angry? Who is guilty? Can you find this one? Before we pick up any attribute, can we find to who it is that we are giving these attributes? Louis says, Anantaji, the thought keeps coming up and I wonder if it is just a egoic thought. It says, here and now, am I aware? Throughout the day it comes with no intention to keep remembering to say it. I feel it is very auspicious. I feel it's very auspicious. In fact, it sounds like a deeper intuitive voice than a thought. A thought typically means something which is attached to a need. It wants something. It's grasping for something. This one seems like something which is more keeping you centered and bringing you home in some sense. So it seems very auspicious for now. But you keep checking in with me once in a while, and if I sense that something is becoming obsessive about it, then we can expose that. But for now it seems very good. Yes, you say it seems to bring the attention out of the mind, yes. Out of being a seeker and noticing I am here now, yes. It's very beautiful, very good. He says, I am aware now. Yes. Ajnani says, Ananta, I see you as an innocent child, but too wise for a child, and a very perfect adult friend. Yes. Not like a father, yes, I don't know why, only wanted to expose. You can relate to me in any way that you like. In fact, I have never forced anyone or told anyone that you should call me father or even Ananta ji. I am fine with just Ananta, perfectly fine. But if it comes naturally for you, then I want to be completely open to that way of expression as well. It is a term of endearment, which I accept wholeheartedly, but I don't expect it to be something which everybody has to conform to. It's not a rule or anything here. So just Ananta, just friend is absolutely fine. See, Jyoti says it can be difficult to tell the difference sometimes between what is a thought or not as often what seems to be thoughts are actually pointing to the truth. It can be difficult to tell the difference sometimes between what is a thought or not, as often what seems to be thoughts are actually pointing to the truth. Yes, but ultimately all of these thoughts will be let go of, and then no pointing at all is required. It is only that if you feel like you walked a particular distance, you feel like you need to come back home. Once we have not picked up a thought at all, then we have not even in imagination walked any distance. Therefore, no wish to come back home required, because we are already home. Yes, but there can be some intuitive feelings which bring us out of our delusion. If we've been imagining too much of personhood, there can be an inner guidance which can come, which is the same guidance that is there in satsang, which can point us back home, as you say. And then Jyoti says, but really it makes no difference. Thought or pointing, they come and go in the same way. Zurin says, something I believe that I am becoming a person. Sometimes I believe that I am becoming a person. Fear comes and I believe I have to do something to get out of that person's state. Yes, there are times where we seem to be right in the middle of some strong beliefs which we seem to have picked up. Now, the actual feeling of doing something is the actual feeling of dropping actually. All that is required to be done is that we've picked up this heavy load of the person, and in that instant itself it can be dropped. And this dropping can seem like a doing initially, and if it does seem like effort initially, that is absolutely fine. But you will see later that it was actually the dropping of effort, not actual effort. It will only seem like some effort initially, which is absolutely fine by me. Claire says, I'd like to expose a voice / identity / thought thing that is like the core of the idea of I. And it's like a malicious snake attacking with venom, and I can see that it is not who I am. You will see that this energetic pattern is very malicious, is very sneaky, knows how to push all our buttons. But in satsang now it is losing all its power. So what we joke about sometimes in satsang, we say that what started out as a huge wrestler who had the ability to throw you around then becomes less and less powerful until ultimately it reaches the point of just being a pesky insect which is buzzing around your ear. Only that much power it will have, even that much might not last. Because in this fire of satsang, this power is being dissolved. And what it says isn't true, yes. Ustreamer 545 says, happy afternoon. Will it make sense if we relate everything in terms of energy? Subtlest, which is vibration, and frequency, gross, and how we understand, feel the energy more and more around us. This is Murthy. Murthy is asking, happy afternoon. Will it make sense if we relate everything in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency, and how do we understand, feel the energy more and more around us? It is useful, and if the metaphor appeals to you, please go ahead and use it. But it can also be very confusing to some. Like in my case also, it was a little confusing initially when Muji would speak about energies, he would speak about attraction to energy and how energy forms are felt. It would seem a little bit confusing. But then as more and more clarity came, it became clearer and clearer that this energetic way of looking at it is a nice metaphor to explain a lot of the flow that happens here. So if it appeals to you, definitely. Jayani says, Anantaji, such confirmation that nothing is happening. I don't exist occurred here during Sunday satsang with Muji. It has been such a storm of fear and intense anger. This all seen, and even the attempt of trying to get out of this storm is not taken seriously. Yet, on some level, there is a feeling that maybe something has not been seen, and that a stabilizing is not happening after so maybe long or something. Let's see what Jayani is saying. She's saying such confirmation that nothing is happening. I don't exist occurred here during Sunday satsang with Muji. So when we say I don't exist, we are saying I don't exist as a separate individual. That what we have imagined ourselves to be just is not real. But there is a sense of a pure witnessing, a pure awareness, a pure seeing which is present here, which has no separation from me. It has no distance from me. It has always been what I must be. Therefore, it's okay to say that I don't exist phenomenally. So you don't exist phenomenally, that's fine. But what you are is the Supreme itself, within which the whole universe is taking birth. And just in your own simple noticing that you are aware now, you are coming to terms with your own reality. Then you say, it has been such a storm of intense fear and anger. This is all seen. And even the attempt of trying to get rid of this storm is not taken seriously. Yes, very good. Yet on some level there is a feeling that maybe something is not being seen, that is stabilizing is not happening after so many years. You are completely stable. Only the ideas we have about ourselves are unstable. So what needs to be dropped is only the idea of instability. Because in any moment, if I were to ask you, are you aware now? Your answer would always be the same. You're only that. That is always here. So drop the idea even of instability, and drop the idea that some states should come and some should not come. Kiran says, Anta, you missed a few of the previous comments before you stream a 5:45. Oh, did I? Okay. I missed quite a few. Okay, so let's look at it now. Okay, Zurim said, sometimes I believe, this one we took. Shanti says, here's something funny to look at. Something has been obsessing, as you said, about missing the chance to find the truth. This creates so much expectation and tension. I am giving this to you too. This tricky one with, the trick saying, almost there, just something left, just something little bit. This one is very good that you're handing over. It's very good. Zurim says, now thanks to your grace, it's coming more and more clear that all this is something I am perceiving and don't have to do anything about it. Yes. You are the perceiving itself. There is not something called the perceiving that you own. There is no perceiver entity even. There is only this pure awareness. Yes, if I miss anything that any of you have said, please feel free to just copy and paste it again so that I can look at it. I'm not cutting anything out or censoring anything. Everything I feel to read. And sometimes some things could get missed, so feel free to just paste it again. Don't feel that I've seen it and I don't want to read it out loud. There is nothing like that. Jaini says, yes, thank you, tears and laughter. Oh God, thank you for your repeated pointing. If somebody asked me today, is there a particular satsang you would like me to hear? And I said, no, it's all the same. It's always the same pointing at. Just different ways to express it. Different concepts have been believed, so sometimes different ways to remove those concepts are expressed. But ultimately we are saying the same thing over and over again. Shanti says, it's okay. I know you receive it on another level. I give you a lot to burn through the week and it is done. Very good. This is actually a communion with the Sadguru in your own heart. This body, mouth, words are just the instruments which are enabling a communion between you and your own reality. It is actually a monologue. Amrit Gaurav says, thank you so much Anantaji for your daily satsang. Very good. Yeah. So we look forward to having you in Bangalore soon. It will be very good to see you again. Jyoti says, Yes, sometimes people ask me what satsang is all about, and I say yes, the only one thing to say, that we are awareness. At least you are able to say this. When they ask me, I am completely at a loss for words. Sometimes I feel that if I were to say something like you are awareness, then there will be a complete misunderstanding about what is being said. Louis says, I so wish, Anantaji, the whole world was like this. Would love to walk out of my door every day and share in this beauty we share here with everyone. So even to look at it completely practically, I would say that so many beings are now so easily understanding what is true. So those times might not be far where it becomes just common knowledge. What seems to be such sacred and rare knowledge today might become common knowledge for the next few generations. That is a nice prayer to have. But you were talking about aliens the other day, so I wonder whether aliens also have these misconceptions about personhood or not. Aradhana says, so grateful for your beautiful presence, Ananta. Thank you, my dear. Shanti says, such a miracle. Anna says, thank you, I love you all. Is it time to go already? Yes, almost. Okay. No. Claire says, I expose all subtle, snidey, judgmental thoughts. Yes. And the confusion that they belong to me. Very good. It is very good. All of you are so amazing. You are able to expose these things, to snap out of the denial of the ego and to come to a place of courage and strength. Be able to expose so openly is very beautiful. And you say, and the guilt that arose from the confusion. Atma says, no time to go. Okay. Jyoti says, I don't know if anyone could understand that we are awareness, but I feel everyone could accept that we are being. Yes. That seems easier to grasp for the mind. Yes. Ustreamer 38 says, love you so much, Father. Jyotika, love you too, my dear. Good. Jyoti had this question on chat yesterday. I don't know if it's still fresh and valid for you. If it is, then we can spend a few minutes on it. Shanti says, love you, Father, Sadguru, Master, Enlightened One, my heart. So beautiful. Thank you. Love you all, sweet son. Love you too, so much, so much, so much. Very good. Amaya says, so grateful for your pointings, as when no foothold at all to believe person. Seems something really rises up strong to test or refute this awareness. Calmer now in body. Very good. Adnani says, thank you, love you. Louis says, seems to be the deepest drive in this. To see love pouring out of everyone. It's very beautiful to see oneness even in the outside world. That's why once I almost embarrassingly exposed that any flash mob actually ends up bringing tears to my eyes. And for many years I actually couldn't figure out why. But it must be because it seems to be so much sense of oneness in that, isn't it? Okay, just between all of us, yeah? Okay, so Jyoti says yes, yes. Okay, okay. So Jyoti's question was, how did all of this come about, in the sense of what brought this being into giving satsang or having satsang in this way. So many versions of this story have happened in the past. Let's see which one comes up today. So for a long time in the life of this person, there seemed to be no belief in the concept of God. And there was this thought which was believed, which was that all that don't have faith in themselves have invented this concept of God just because they are scared. That they need something to rely on, therefore they have invented this concept of God. And then some experiences happened where I came across some being who was able to foretell the future. He was an astrologer, he was very accurate with foretelling the future. And at the same time, a lot of suffering was coming up in life. So with that, what happened is, I came across this book called Autobiography of a Yogi, because life created some openness. So first this book appeared, Sri Paramahansa Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and it had some deep impact here. But if I were to look at it now, I'm not sure what was it that so deeply affected me then. But in reading Autobiography of a Yogi, something was there about learning Kriya Yoga and doing some Kriya type practices, and that led me. So he was Sri Paramahansa Yogananda. In Bangalore there's a master called Sri Ravi Shankar, so who teaches something called the Sudarshan Kriya. So I found that when I came to know about this was in 97 or 98 most likely, and when I came to know about this Sri coincidence and the Kriya similarity, I felt that I must go and try this. So went to the Art of Living, learned the Sudarshan Kriya, and all the yogic practices actually helped in some way, because it gave some space here for some contemplation to happen. But what happened is, and I know we are running out of time, so we'll have a quick version of the story. But what happened is, there was a lot of interest in the Art of Living here, and did many courses and programs with the Art of Living, with the ultimate goal which seemed like to become a teacher of the Art of Living. But life of course had other plans, and a lot of suffering arose because of some life events. Things happened where a lot of suffering actually arose. And with grace there was this question which said, if you know so much and you are so good at practices and you are so spiritually evolved, then how can it be that suffering still continues? And with that question, the entire framework of the spiritual ego just collapsed actually. Because I realized that I did not know anything at all. It was all just concepts that I was parroting, that were heard from others. I was just a parrot. Just parroting. And then with grace I came across Bhagwan's book, Be As You Are, and at similar time, I'm not sure what was the sequence actually, but Nisargadatta's I Am That. And I Am That actually had a very profound effect. It was very frustrating experience also initially, because I just could not understand many times when he would say the sense I am, be with the I amness. All these terms just would not make any sense at all. Then in looking for a teacher, I looked for a student of his, because I knew that Nisargadatta Maharaj had left the body. So I looked for a student of his, and I found Ramesh Valsekar. So for a few years, anytime I was in Mumbai, I would visit Ramesh. And Ramesh, as you know, speaks a lot about non-dualship. He used to speak a lot about non-dualship. But something was still not completely clear. And when I was looking for disciples of Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi, then I came across these names, Papaji, then Lakshmana Swami, and there was a desire to meet somebody from that lineage. So when I went to Thiru for the first time, there was a feeling that I would like to meet Lakshmana Swami, and by then I'd seen all of Muji's videos on YouTube, but there was no feeling that this one is going to be my guru. So when I went to Thiru, it was mostly to do a lot of spiritual shopping actually, to meet all the masters over there in Thiru. And as grace would have it, I saw Muji first. It's a long story. I was late for satsang, I was waiting down, and then I saw him come down the stairs. And as he was coming down the stairs, this strong feeling came over me that I have come home, that my life is his problem now and everything will be taken care of. This strong feeling came, and I gave him a hug, and it was a short meeting. And then I always believed that next day I went up to him on the hot seat actually. But if you look at the dates now, you realize that one day went in the middle, and I have no recollection of what happened on that day. There is no recollection of that day, of what happened in satsang or any of that. I just remember that when I landed up on the hot seat, in looking at his eyes, all that was spoken and was just an intellectual understanding earlier was seen to be completely true. The person had completely dissolved, and all there was this oneness and pure love that was being transmitted from his eyes, and all sense of separation vanished. This is what was happening internally while you see me doing all the crying and laughter all happening at the same time in the video. So that is what happened. And then after that, Muji just adopted me. Muji just adopted me, and it just has gone on like this very naturally in its own flow. And there was no feeling here, very strong feeling that I must do satsang or this should happen. In fact, we wanted to do video satsangs with Muji. In fact, that's how it started in Bangalore, that we started doing fortnightly DVD satsangs here. We started doing these fortnightly DVD satsangs, and it just happened that his presence was so strongly felt in those DVD satsangs, and then these beautiful beings started coming, Ram and Jyotika and Amrita, Om would log in online. So these beautiful beings started coming, and for some reason they started asking me questions, and usually I was not very open to answering, but for them just these answers also seemed to flow. So when these answers used to flow, and I could also feel the Master's presence so strongly here, then I wrote to Muji and said that this is what seems to be happening. So he said that I must share. Grace is using this body mind very well now, and the sharing must continue like this. And he said one phrase in the mail where he said that we must bring more beings into this Sangha of being. And I felt that that is a very beautiful name for this Sangha. So this name Sangha of being comes from there. Because there was not this strong motivation to call it Ananta Sangha. There was no feeling to name it like that. It was just seeming like Muji's prasad in some way, and that's how this whole thing happened this way. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining in satsang today. Muji ji ki jai. So much love to all of you.